let's take a look. Let's take a look at how to craft your message. I want you to take a look at this. Hopefully you can see this and it comes across clearly. Where is Miss Jordan? Is Miss Jordan here? All right. Ms. Jordan, this is back in 2016 when I was in Dublin, Ireland. What we want to do in public speaking is we tell a story and make a point. Bill Gove, the first president of the National Speakers Association, said, tell a story and make a point. So here I am in Dublin, Ireland. I'll tell the story and then I'll come back here for the point. Take a look.
In fact, raise your hand if you watched any of the Summer Olympics. Oh, I love the Summer Olympics. But I like the 2012 Summer Olympics even better. Because, do you know who the oldest participant in the 2012 Summer Olympics was? Yes, it was a 74-year-old equestrian from Japan. 74-year-old equestrian from Japan. So my 7-year-old son and I are watching this on TV, and of course all the commentators kept harping on was the guy's age. Right? They just kept saying, he's 74. Can you believe he's 74? By golly, he's 74. Finally, my 7-year-old son looked up and said, well, how old is the horse?
And about a week later, I couldn't get that question out of my mind, so I Googled it. And they asked this man, they said, well, how long will you continue to compete? Guess what his answer was? He said, I can go on forever, but my horse is 15. And that's when I realized my son's question was much more relevant than I thought. And even though he was only 7 years old, my son, not the horse, was only 7 years old at the time, he taught me something very important about self-development and about greatness. Here it is, Daphne. Never stop asking questions. Never stop asking. The moment you stop asking questions is the moment you stop growing. And we know from nature, the moment you stop growing is the moment you fall. Never stop asking questions. So I got a question for you. What do you think is the number one thing that stands, and I want some answers here because I know it's in the afternoon, I know it's late, I know your energy might not be where it was this morning, but what do you think is the number one thing that stands between most people living their dreams? What do you think? Feel free to unmute and yell it out.
Fear.
Fear.
Their confidence.
Themselves, good. What else? Sharon, what'd you say?
I say fear.
Fear.
Yeah, you said fear. Fear of what, Sharon?
Past
Fear
experience.
of the unknown.
Fear of the
People
unknown.
fear what they don't know.
Fear of
action.
failure.
Yeah.
Insecurity.
Maybe even fear of success.
Procrastination.
Yeah, it took you a while to answer, right? Procrastination.
Fear
The loss of an
judgment
investment.
others.
Exactly, loss of an investment. All right, these are all great answers, but the number one thing is not what you think. You can put yourself back on mute. Number one thing is not what you think. I used to work for an internet company, and I wanted to go full-time into professional speaking. That was my goal. That was my dream. Raise your hand if you have a goal or raise your hand if you want to do anything in life. Me too. So I went to the vice president of this company. He was a young guy. He was a good looking guy. He looked like a young, if you know, David Beckham, looked like a young David Beckham. And I went to him and I said, John, I'm going to be leaving because it's always been my dream to be a full-time professional speaker. He said, that's your dream, Craig? I said, yes, it is. He said, well, that's great. I really admire you for having one, but you can't leave. I said, hold on now, what do you mean I can't leave? He said, well, Craig, we've been thinking about it and we're going to raise your salary up to this. Now, salary means the same thing in Chicago, right? Okay, then you see my dilemma. I said, John, this is not a financial decision. This is about my dream. In fact, I call this a dream decision. He said, okay, I understand. I really do. But how about if we raise your salary up to this? I said, this is not a financial decision. This is a dream decision. Do you know he raised it 4 times? I kid you not. He kept saying, we're going to raise your salary up to this. I said, this is not a financial decision. This is a dream decision. Listen to what he said to me.
He said, okay, Craig, how about if we raise your salary to well above 6 figures? I said, dreams are overrated. Come on now. 6 figures? Back then, shoot, that's good money today. I could fill up my gas tank for a week on that kind of salary. I said, but John, before I say yes to you, I got to go home and talk to my wife. So I went home to my wife. I said, honey, I don't know what to do. What do you think I should do? What should I do? And my wife looked up at me with her big brown eyes and said, take the money, fool.
You like my wife, don't you? But if you've been sitting beside my wife and me just a few moments later on our old, beat up black leather sofa with the chocolate chip cookies baking in the background, you would have heard her say something that can absolutely change your life, and I know it because it changed mine. She said, Craig, this is all you've ever wanted. This is all you've ever talked about. I don't care how much they try to compensate you, your dream is not for sale. That's deep, isn't it? Because most people think the number one thing that stands between them and their dreams is some kind of bad obstacle. Lack of time, fear, lack of money. That's not it. The number one thing that stands between most people living between their dreams is not something bad. It's something good that we settle for. Right? Good job, good relationship, good life. Did you realize that sometimes the enemy of the best is the good? Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Are you too good to be great? I looked at my wife. I said, see, girl, that's why I married you. My dream, not for sale. That's what you said, right? And I walked back in there the next day and I looked that vice president in his eyes and I was firm and I looked him directly in his face and I was bold and I said to him, my wife said my dream is not for sale. And I left. And that very year, I spoke over 160 times in 44 states and 5 countries. Yeah, and I'm happy to say I've been running my mouth ever since. But here's the thing. I promise you this. I promise you, there's nothing special about me. There's something very special about the advice my wife gave me. Right? No matter how good you are, what you do, don't let that good get in the way of the best. And Shelly, no matter where you are in your life at this moment, please remember the words of my wife. Your dream is not for sale. Your dream is not for sale. Boom, stop right there. Tell a story, make a point. What's the point of that story? Your dream is not for sale. People are going to remember it. They're going to repeat it. They're going to repost it. They're going to retweet it. And here's the great part. When you get the buzz, you get the biz. Let me say that again. When you get the buzz, you get the biz. You get the business. Ask me how I know this. I went out to India. Now, I came back from India a couple weeks ago, but in 2011, I went out to India and I gave a speech in a place called Mysore, India, on the Infosys campus. I gave that story. The very next day, I was in my hotel room. There was a newspaper that was slid under my door. I picked it up. There was a big picture of me on the front cover. And the newspaper read, your dream is definitely not for sale. When you get the buzz, you get the biz. Now, how did I get the business from this, Herbert? This article, somebody read it, and it led me to speak in Chiba and Tokyo, Japan. You get the buzz, you get the biz. Don't just speak to be remembered, speak to be repeated. Very important point, okay? Tell a story and make a point. Now, let me ask you something. I need you to be very honest with me. Have you ever seen a story that was all over the place? Thank you. I'm really liking you, Bessie, because you're honest. You ever seen a story that was all over the place? Have you ever given one? Me too. Me too. And it's because the speaker doesn't start crafting his message in the right place. The very first thing we need to do when we start to craft our message is come up with what I call a foundational phrase. Write that down. Foundational phrase. You heard a lot of them this morning, but what's a foundational phrase? See if you can finish this one. Don't get ready, stay ready from this morning, right? What's a foundational phrase? What got you here won't get you there. What's a foundational phrase? Never stop asking questions. What's a foundational phrase? Your dream is not for sale. What do you notice about those foundational phrases, those takeaway phrases? What do you notice? You can unmute if you want to. What do you notice about those phrases? They're
Short,
short.
memorable.
Thank you. Thank you.
They're conclusive.
Write this down. They're short. Your foundational phrase should be fewer than 10 words.
Short, sweet.
Right. Why should it be fewer than 10 words?
For memory.
Whose memory?
Memory of the
Oh.
person listening.
And who else?
The audience.
Your
Your-
own.
You gotta remember. You gotta remember
course.
remember it
You
too.
gotta remember it too, yeah.
Absolutely. But here's the real reason why it should be fewer than 10 words. Because it forces you to be crystal clear on what your message is. Right? Make no mistake about it. The number one reason a speaker won't get his message across, he's not crystal clear on what his message is. Fewer than 10 words forces you to be crystal clear. Now, feel free to unmute, and I want you to answer this, or at least nod your head. Have you ever wondered what to keep in a speech and what to keep out?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right? And have you ever wondered what to keep in a story and what to keep out?
Yes.
Write this down. The phrase determines what stays. The phrase determines what stays. If what you say supports your foundational phrase, keep it in. If it doesn't, toss it out. Even if it's the best thing ever, it doesn't belong here. The phrase is the litmus test. The phrase determines what stays. Now, I'm going to give you a statement, and I want you to tell me what it means. Okay, here we go. No phrase, no stage. No phrase, no stage. What's that mean?
If you don't have a
Somebody says
phrase,
you don't
you're not
have a
going to stay on
speech.
stage.
You're not
Say
going
it
to be
again, Bessie.
invited.
Say it again. Say it again, Bessie.
I said, it sounds like you don't have a speech.
Yeah. What it means is this. If you don't have a foundational phrase for your story, don't take it to the stage yet because it's not ready.
Okay.
So the question is, where do I take it? The answer is, take it to Toastmasters. Hello? That right? Greg, they will give you a phrase. They'll tell you some other things too, but they will give you a phrase. I'll give you an example. Make sure you're on mute right now. Make sure you're on mute, because here's an example of a story that I had that I wanted to tell, but I couldn't tell it because I didn't point. All right, and just watch what happened. By the way, I have to say this. I'm completely innocent in this situation. This was a clear, honest mistake. So take a look. Here's an example. You ever gone to a drive-through restaurant, placed your order, and been misunderstood? I can't mention the name of this restaurant, but its initials are K, F, and C. So imagine this, you're in my passenger seat, we're driving through the KFC, and I always order 3 thighs. That's the only part of the chicken I like. So we get up to the intercom, and she says, "Welcome to KFC, may I help you?" I said, "Yes, I would like 3 thighs." She said, "Small or large?" And before I could even register it, I just blurted out, "Do you have large thighs?" I'm gonna recommend that you never ask anyone that question. And she came back and says, "Yes, we have small and large sides. How may I help you?" But by now, I'm just rolling over in embarrassment. And I'll tell you what, Mark, I called a friend of mine that night, and he said, "Craig, what you say is not always what they hear." Boom. Guess what I have now, Sharon? I got a foundational phrase I can use for every communication and leadership speech I give moving forward. So what I'm trying to get across to you today is, don't create your speech in a vacuum. Share it at a Toastmaster club. See what they get from it. Give it to family members. And don't tell them you're telling them a story. Just slip it into the conversation. Share it with some friends and see what they get from it. It might help you arrive at a nice foundational phrase that's not only remembered, but also repeated. And in fact, let's prove that right now. I know people want the proof wrapped up in truth. Let's prove that right now. We're going to do a quick contest.
Okay.
You can be on mute right now for a second. We're going to do a quick contest. You're going to hear a quick story from me. And at the end of the story, you're going to have 30 seconds to come up with the best foundational phrase you can possible. Now, show me with your hands, fewer than how many words? 10. Okay? And whoever wins gets a prize. And I'm not even going to tell you what the prize is, but what I can tell you is nobody in the world has this prize yet. Nobody in the world has this prize from me yet. So trust me, it's going to be worth your while. All right? So Here's the story. You come up with a foundational phrase fewer than 10 words. 1996, I'm flying back from Los Angeles to Baltimore. It's a 5-hour flight. I sit down on the flight. Guy sits down next to me. And I remember thinking, wow, this guy looks kind of like me, just a slightly older version. I wonder what he does in life. Now, Elizabeth, if you fly a lot, you'll appreciate this. The first 4.5 hours of the flight, what do you think we do? We say absolutely nothing to each other, right? The last half hour of the flight, he turns to me and he says, how you doing? I said, I'm fine. I've actually been here the whole time. He said, I'm sorry I didn't talk to you earlier, but I didn't want to talk to you and find out you were boring and then be stuck talking to a boring person for 5 hours. You understand? And oddly enough, I did understand because I'm kind of the same way. But how do people try to start a conversation with you on a flight? What are some of the things they say? You probably say they'll say things like, where are you from? What do you do?
Where you going? What do you do?
And the where you going one trips me out. I'm like, hopefully we're going to the same place.
Yeah.
Like, drop me off over Chicago. He didn't say any of that. In fact, it felt like he was looking through me. And he said, what do you want to do? I said, well, right now I'm an events planner. Eventually, I'd like to be a professional speaker. I said, why? What do you do? He said, I'm a professional speaker. I said, you are? He says, yes. As a matter of fact, I am the #1 gospel comedian in the United States of America. Yeah, that's how I was like, Herbert, I didn't even know there was such thing as a gospel comedian. He said, well, that's why I'm #1. So now there's more to that story, but you don't need it. With what you got right there, you can come up with a foundational phrase, fewer than 10 words, that makes a point that doesn't just get remembered, but also gets repeated. Now, if you don't play, you can't win. But here's the other thing I'm going to say about this. You might put out a foundational phrase, and I might just play jazz with you, and it might lead to a better foundational phrase. So that's what I want us to do now. So take 30 seconds and figure out what your foundational phrase might be for that story. And then you can start raising your hand and I'll call on you. Or you can just yell it out. All right, let's go ahead and open the floodgates. What do we have for a foundational phrase? Ask questions. First impressions made last. Take a chance. Good.
Everything always happens at that particular time. For
everything
that
always
reason.
happens at that particular time. Maybe everything always happens at the right time.
That's right.
Maybe we can make it a little bit more rhythmic, okay?
Silence between speaker to speaker.
Say that one more time.
Silence between speaker to speaker.
Silence between speaker to speaker.
It's never too late, and late is sometimes better.
It's never too late.
That's cute.
Everything happens
Denise.
for a reason. Just make sure you're the season.
Oh. Now let's play with that a little bit. Everything happens for a reason. Just make sure you're in season. Right? And we can play with that a little bit. Now we got to count the words. But we can play with that a little bit. All right?
It happens when it's supposed to.
Everything in its season.
Everything in its season.
People you meet make you. Everything happens for a reason.
If it's hard to say, it's too many words.
Yeah. Here, let me say this. It should be fewer than 10 words. It should be you focused, meaning focused on your audience, such as what got you here won't get you there, such as your dream is not for sale. And it should be rhythmic. It does not have to rhyme, but it should be rhythmic. It should be easy to say, like, your dream is not for sale, or what got you here won't get you there, or don't get ready, stay ready, or never stop asking questions. Or if you make
what you send out comes back to you.
Okay, now
you don't know who you know until you know.
I got one vaguely. I want to use the words vaguely sympathetic. So learn to be vaguely sympathetic, staying vaguely sympathetic. I want to use vaguely sympathetic.
I like that. Okay, let me stop right there.
And the season.
Okay. We're not gonna stop with the reasons and seasons. I get it. All right, let's stop right there. Let's cut it off. Okay. Some of the good ones I've gotten over the years have been your #1 when you're the only one. right? Or find a niche and scratch it, right? There's all kind of ones that you can come up with, but
Mhm.
I really like the one about uh, reason and season. Okay, and I think that might be Jana up there. Was that you, Jana? All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but I also like the one of you don't know who said that?
That was L. Darnell. You don't know who you know until you know.
I kind of like the rhythm of that. You don't know who you know until you know.
Till you know,
Right?
right?
Like some people might say your destiny might be sitting right beside you.
Mm.
You don't know who you know until you know. So I'm going to give Jana and Darnell the prize for this one. Let's give them a hand. Darnell, I want to talk to you for a second. Go ahead and unmute.
Oh, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Great.
All right. So what we would do here is to make our foundational phrase remembered and repeated is at the end of my story. Pretend we're in real life and we're on a real stage. Darnell, if he was saying my speech or he was turning into me, at the end of my story, when I get the laugh, he's going to wait until the laughter dies down. He's going to walk forward. He's going to look his audience over. Now, why would he do all that before giving you his foundational phrase? Because write this down. In speaking, you want to tease them before you tell them. Let me say it again, Deborah. Tease them before you tell them. Now, what do you think is one of the greatest teases when it comes to public speaking? I think you got it, Sharon. What is it?
Silence.
Silence. Pause. Silence. So make them wait for it. So Darnell, I'm going to do my last line of my story, and I want you to look the audience over, even though I can't see you, and then I want you to deliver your foundational phrase, okay? So I'm going to be the audience, and I'm going to laugh like I'm supposed to. It's a little difficult because we're not in person. So do you understand the instructions, Darnell?
Yes.
All right, so here we go. That's why I'm number one. Ha 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 ha.
You don't know who you know until you know.
Let's give him a hand. Great job. Great job.
Wow.
That's hard to do
Good.
because we can't even see him looking us over. But that pace that he just had and that cadence and that was perfect. You don't know who you know until you know. All right, very good. Thank you, Darnell. You get the prize, and Janet gets the prize as well.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
You're very welcome. Okay, go back on mute, please. Now, we have some ideas on how to craft your message. Tell a story, make a point, foundational phrase, fewer than 10 words. The phrase determines what stays. No phrase, no stage. Tease them before you tell them. All these different types of things. But let's look at how to deliver your speech. Raise your hand if you've seen me speak before or this is your first time. You just realized that all hands should be up, right? Exactly. All right. Here's what I need. I need one volunteer, and there might be a significant prize in it for you. Sharon, you're my volunteer.
Thank you.
Go ahead. All right, thank you. Okay, Sharon, this is what I need you to do. Are you still there, Sharon?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay. This is what I need you to do. We're talking about delivery now of a speech. I want you to pretend that you're up in front of 500 people in person, not on Zoom, but in person. And you want to find out how many of them have ever been to Baltimore. You know, I'm outside of Baltimore here. So if you're going to find out from 500 people in person, how many of them, on estimate, how many of them have ever been to Baltimore, and you're standing in front of them, this is your crowd, what would you say?
Have you ever been to Baltimore? Well, let me tell you, I have been, and they have some great shopping malls. There was a shopping mall right outside of my hotel. So if you couldn't find me in the hotel, I was in the mall. What about you? Have you been there?
I'm going to stop you before you go into your own keynote speech. But Sharon, that was fantastic, and you actually got it right. You got it right. But let me tell you what most people do. Most people say something like this. How many of you have ever been to Baltimore? Right? Now, what's the problem with that? I tell you what the problem with that is. Let's look at it this way. And I'm not just talking to Sharon now. How would you like, stay with me, Sharon. How would you like a tool you can use to make a deeper connection with your audience than you've ever felt before? If so, just raise your hands. All right. then this is what we call a slight edge principle, which means it's a slight change in the way you do things. But if you do it throughout your entire speech, man, what a difference in how they feel. Not just hear your message, but feel your message. So Sharon, when your audience members leave your speech, do you want them to leave thinking, whoa, I really felt like I was part of a group? Or do you want them to leave thinking, whoa, it really felt like Sharon was speaking directly to me? What do we want, A or B? B, right? How many people did Sharon just, how many people, the people who make the mistake when they say, how many of you have ever been to Baltimore? How many people are they speaking to?
Everybody.
How many people should they speak to? One. So how can they rephrase their question to make it sound and feel grammatically like they're speaking to one rather than speaking to 500? How can they do that? Just like Sharon did. Have you ever been to Baltimore? Can you imagine? Should you, would you, could you? Singular grammatically. Bessie, write this down. I promise you it will change your public speaking life. Speak to one, but look to all. Speak to one, but look to all. Sharon, we have far too many speakers speaking to far too many people far too often. And Jeffrey, you'll hear them because they'll say things like ladies and gentlemen, or friends, or folks, or boys and girls, or societal members, or members of the committee. Shoot, Janet, you might as well be saying friends, Romans, countrymen. Stop. Speak to one. Or it could be more subtle. Be honest. Have you ever heard a speaker say something like, now some of you might be thinking. Guess what? There is no some of you.
No.
Now you might be thinking. Feel the difference? Or you've heard a speaker say, now many of you probably came to the conclusion. Guess what? There is no many of you. Now, in case you've come to the conclusion, speak to one, but look to all. So go ahead and mute yourself right now. I'll get back to you in a second, Sharon. But this is a tool you can use to make sure you can take it up on stage. It's a test. I call it the hallway test. So I want you to take a look at this in action.
Speak to one, but look to all. Now I'm going to give you a test. This is something that you can do to make sure that you're speaking to one, but looking to all. It's what I call the hallway test. So Heather and I, here's how it goes. If you can walk by one person in the hallway and you can say it, then you can take it up on stage. So Heather and I, we're going to just walk by each other in the hallway and just see what happens. How many of you have ever been to Baltimore? Unless she's civil, we got a problem. Now, watch this. We're going to walk by each other again. Let's see what happens. Have you ever been to Baltimore?
Yeah, I used to live there.
How happy to grace. Now, you see the difference? If I can say it there, I can take it up on stage.
So there you go. If you can walk by one, by the way, there's the proof of my daughter's letter there. But if you can walk by one person in the hallway and say it to him or her, you can take it up on stage. So Sharon, let's do this one more time. Even though you got it right the first time, I want you to reinforce it for your audience. How would you ask the question to see how many of them have been to Baltimore? What would you say? And and by the way, you're in person, so I need to see you look to all as well.
No. Okay, Duffy, here we go. Okay, there you, oh, now I'm really nervous.
So what would you say, Sharon? Now, I mean, you said it right the first time, but I need you to look to all. So what would you say?
Have you been to Baltimore? Well, I have.
Good. Let me stop you right there. So just make sure you're looking at everybody, right?
I'm
so
looking
it can be
around.
Like, yeah. So it might be something like this, Sharon, as I go to gallery. It might be something like this. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Baltimore. Remember, I'm not on Zoom. I'm in person. I'm in real life, okay?
Yeah,
So
I got
speak
I
to
got
one, but look to all. Let's give Sharon a hand. She got it right the first time. Great job. I got a prize for you, Sharon. Again, nobody has this prize yet, so you'll get it. All right?
Thank
you
you.
so much. The other thing I want to say about delivery really quickly is this. We have to start mimicking correctly. I got people coming up on stage and they're saying things like this. I was on the telephone the other day. And I'm like, what phone is shaped like this the other day? right? So what do you do to make it accurate? You pull the phone up to your ear, you pull it away, there's your phone. I'm telling you, Deborah, I was doing a boot camp with Darren LaCroix, and a guy got up on stage and he said, I was driving down the road the other day. And Darren said, were you driving the space shuttle? Why are your hands so wide? Got to start mimicking correctly. And I'll give you this too. It's not about, when it comes to delivery, it's not all about the lines, it's about the spaces in between the lines. For example, raise your hand if you've ever been in a speech contest. Thank you, Jerry. When I won the club level and then I went to the area level, then I was going to division. We were holding it in the Red Cross building in Baltimore City. So I went into the Red Cross building. I'm going to go from the first floor in the elevator from the first floor to the third floor. I get on the elevator. A guy gets on next to me. And he looked like he could be a minister or a preacher or something like that. And Greg, the moment he saw me, he said, you're in the contest, aren't you? I said, yes, I am. And without saying anything else, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a bottle of oil, unscrewed it, dipped his finger in it, and started walking towards me. And dabbed me in the forehead. Yeah, Greg, and before I could say anything, he looked at me and said, I've just anointed you. I said, come again? He said, no, you have to understand, I'm a man of faith. What I just did was very important. I've just anointed you. You're going to be the one who makes it. Now, Sonia, I got to be honest, I had no idea what was going on here. And plus, I'm black, so I was like, am I ashy? Why is he doing this? Why are you saying it? But he just kept saying, I've anointed you, I've anointed you, I've anointed. Thankfully, the third floor came. And I hopped off the elevator, I got into the contest, everybody's speaking, and then it's my turn. And in the middle of my contest speech, Jerry, my mind goes blank. Now, keep in mind, this is a contest. Greg, if my mind went blank to you today, I would just say, hey, Greg, where were we? You can't do this in a contest. You got to be darn near perfect. So I had no idea what to do. This had never happened to me before. And I just gave up. I gave up. And I started looking around the room. And then my eyes latched onto his. And at that exact moment, everything came rushing back. And Elizabeth, I picked up where I left off. But here's the interesting thing about the moment where I lost my mind. Herbert knows this. I was supposed to pause. I don't think I was supposed to pause that long, but I was supposed to pause. So, Janet, I picked up where I left off. I continued. The speech contest went on. And at the end of the contest master comes up and says, and the winner of today's division contest is Craig Valentine. All these people rushed the stage. And you know what the first thing they said to me was, Elizabeth? They said, the reason you won? That pause. Oh my goodness, what a pause. What an amazing pause. What a pause. And all I could think was, well, you know, I am anointed. Oh. Do you know he never claimed me? You got to understand that there are people who said, I helped Craig Valentine win the world. No, you didn't. He actually helped me. He never claimed me. In fact, I've never seen him in my life again. Jana, he just came into my life, lifted it, and left. Isn't it appropriate, Sandra, that we met in an elevator? Because he met me at one level and left me at another.
That story is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, let me say this. Was it about the words? Some of it. But a lot of it was about the spaces and faces in between the lines. It was about this. It was about this. It was about this. It's about this. It's about this. It's about that. It's about this. It's about that. It's about this. It's about that. It's all the spaces and faces and things that happen between the lines that make the story go. So you say to yourself, well, do I have to write down, hey, I'm going to smile here, I'm going to do that? No, all you have to do is don't retell it, relive it. Relive it. If you truly go back and relive it, all the right gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, all the right things will come. So don't restate it, relive it. So those are some ideas about delivery. You have some ideas on how to craft your message. Let's look at how to sell it. All right, I want you to unmute if you can. And I want you to fill in the blank here to make sure we already know how to sell our message. So go ahead and unmute. I don't even care if you have noise in your background. I want you to finish this for me based on what we talked about this morning. Never sell a product, always sell the
Results.
Thank you. You can mute yourself again. Never sell a product, always sell a result. But there's more. There's more. Raise your hand if a year from now you'd like to be at least 3 times better than the speaker you are today. Good. Then for absolutely free, for no fee, you can go to one of my websites, which is 52speakingtips.com. That's 52speakingtips.com. And every week for a year, you're going to get an audio lesson from me. And by the end of that year, you will be at least 3 times better than the speaker you are today. Hopefully with 3 times the opportunities. Stop right there. What was the result? 3 times better. Thank you, Anise. I know you got the right answer. What was the resource?
Website.
52speakingtips.com.
That's right. The website, 52 Speaking Tips. Now, which one did I mention first?
The website.
It's funny. I just read somebody's lips. They said free. Free. And it is free. But here's you're right. It's the result. Okay. So here's the addition to the formula. Never sell a product, always sell the result. Always put the result before the resource. In leadership, you want to state the result before you give the request. Because Jerry, if I did it the other way around, the way most people do it, it would have sounded like this. Raise your hand if you'd like to receive 52 emails from me. Jeffrey put his hand up. I appreciate that. But I don't think my opt-in rate would be as high on that one. So never sell a product, always sell the result. Always put the result before the resource. One last thing I'll say, I don't have time to do the activity because we only have 3 minutes. But I want to tell you this. One of the other reasons why people don't sell their message is because of this. Too many speakers try to get across too much information in too little time. Have you seen it? Have you done it?
Done it.
Me too. It's so prevalent that there's an old speaker proverb that says, when we squeeze our information in, you squeeze your audience out. When you squeeze your information in, you squeeze your audience out. So a lot of times when it comes to public speaking, less is more. I'd much rather give you 3 tools that you walk away with than 10 tools that you forget. Remember, we're not speaking to be remembered, we're speaking to be repeated. So you have some ideas on how to craft your message, some ideas on how to deliver your message, such as speak to one, look to all, some ideas on how to sell your message. Never sell a product, always sell the results. There's one last thing before I go I'd like to leave with you. And this is not just about public speaking, this is about anything. But for me, it was about public speaking. I'll close with this. Craft, deliver, sell. When it comes to public speaking of any kind or leadership, you have to be there before you get there. Let me say it again. You got to be there before you get there. I'll close with this. I was an events manager in the mid-90s. But what I didn't tell you is that one of my jobs was setting up the stage for the speaker. Valerie, can you imagine that? All the while wanting to be the speaker. But no, here I am taping down power cords, moving chairs around, moving the lectern or podium up front, taping, moving more chairs. They used to call me the chairman because I used to move so many chairs. But Anise and Elizabeth, I promise you, every single solitary time I walked into one of these empty ballrooms, I would walk to the front, I would stand behind the lectern, I would look out, and I would imagine that one day people would come to see me. But it wasn't enough to imagine it. You have to have a mantra to be there before you get there. And here was my mantra. This is what I always said when I stood behind those lecterns looking out at that empty audience. I would say to myself this: today I move the chairs. Tomorrow I move the audience. Hopefully you've been moved today. Thank you so much.
You're amazing, Craig.
I appreciate you having energy in the afternoon like this. I haven't been with you all day. I appreciate that. But I have a feeling it comes from the great leadership you have and then just the energy that they're pouring on you. So Herbert, thank you so much. Valerie, Sandra, everybody, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
There's a lot about you, Craig. You are just, oh, it's good to see you again. That's
Great to
great.
see you. I wish it was in person, but hey, this is better than nothing. So I appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
Craig, thank you so much, Mr. Valentine. This was beyond amazing. This is definitely legendary. And I know everyone got touched who was here. Legacy, yes.
That's right. We want
Leave
to
a
leave that
legacy.
legacy.
Leave a legacy.
So
You
thank
so
you for the
much.
opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity.
It,
I'll settle all the prizes with the people who won. So we just have to coordinate all that. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that. Be there before you get there. I love that. Love that.
Take care.
it's funny that you said this was your dream because that's my dream to travel the world and give speeches, inspire people.
I'm glad you were able to take something from that, Jana. In this last 10 minutes here, I'm just going to go ahead and give a couple closing remarks and then let some of the trio to speak to as well. I just want to say thank you so much for joining this Summer TLI 2025, Living Out Legendary Leadership. I'm sure you all have been impacted and it's taken a lot away. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our District Director, Sandra Lane.
Hey, thank you, Herbert. Thank you to you and to Valerie for planning an amazing TLI. When people stay on for 4 hours, that means they're getting something that they want or that they feel they need. And I've been here and I even jumped around for the different educational sessions just because I'm nosy and I wanted to get a little bit of everything. And the sessions were interactive. So I thank all of the people who led those educational sessions, and especially thank each and every one of you that have taken prime time out of your Saturday to get to really improve upon yourself. This is both professional and personal development, and I hope that when we turn off the Zoom, you will say to yourself, "This was time well invested in myself as a leader and for my own personal development." So I thank you to each and every one of you, and especially Herbert and Valerie for planning a wonderful TLI. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam District Director. Valerie, our Program Quality Director, you have any remarks?
I do. This was, oh my God, so much energy. Craig, I mean, he just brought it home. The ending was just amazing. I know the education sessions were great and living out legendary leadership. Thank you, Herbert, for bringing up. I mean, he created that theme because the thing is, we have to think of ourselves as that legendary leader, and how are we bringing ourselves up as executive presence to individuals or your team or your organization. And this was just a great dynamic TLI. And make sure you fill out that TLI form. The survey is in the chat. We definitely want to hear from you and know exactly what impact did this event have for you. And I really enjoyed myself. I really did. You know, doing a lot of behind the scenes, but I was still listening. But it was just amazing. And I'm just proud of Herbert. And I'm just so happy to see all your faces from other districts too. So just give yourself a hand for coming out. And thank you to all the other districts that came from around the world. I think that speaks volume in Toastmasters, that we all can come together and learn new leadership tools and just pave it forward to our organization, Toastmasters. Thank you so much. Back to you, Herbert.
Thank you, Madam Program Quality Director. And last but not least, our Club Growth Director, do you have any remarks? Katrina Odo?
I don't think she's on the call, Herbert.
There's something I would like each and every one of you to remember before you go. I learned this clear back in college, but this was a poem I once learned and later had the opportunity to meet the man who wrote it. Build a better world, said God, and I answered how? The world is such a bitter place and complicated now. There's nothing I can do. And God, in all his wisdom, said, just build a better you. If each and every one of us work to do that and to share what we learned with our leadership today, with everyone in our club, just imagine what a better world it can be. Thank you, Herbert.
Thank you, Jana, for those very, very powerful, bold words. Thank you so much. And with that, as the final touch on that, I just want to say thank you again. Have a wonderful time. Thank you for pushing through. I know this was long, but we all made it to the finish line. So have a wonderful afternoon and enjoy your weekend.